Is there? Most of us
Good morning, everyone. So I am filling in for Jen again. Jen's, you heard, she's heading off to New Orleans this morning, it sounds like. So welcome. It seems like we saw a lot of you just 12 hours ago, right? So great party last night. Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Yeah, a lot of you people look familiar.
Yeah.
So if you were a group of baboons, you would be a Congress. But since we already have one of those, we'll use the other name, a troop. All right, there it is. Our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good to have you here. Rich, good to see you. And look at it's the same group down there that's over there. That's amazing. All right, how it works. Our four-way test of the things we think is fair. Is it different? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, welcome. Beautiful day indeed for us to have our gathering in the morning. And again, nice to have seen so many of you last night over at Salvatore's. Great meal, great conversation. And, let's do it again. All right, today is January 13th, the year 2012. I wrote 25. I wrote 25. That's not right. No. There are 352 days remaining of the year, and there are 27 days left until spring training begins.
Okay.
Find out how many baseball people are here. All right. Things you probably don't know, don't need to know, and I'm telling you anyway. In Switzerland, it is illegal to own just one guinea pig.
Okay.
they come in pairs.
They're social animals, and they need to have more than one. And so, in Switzerland, you get fined if you only have one. I don't know. Birthdays, Aaron. Aaron, I saw him come in.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow.
Wednesday, yeah.
Yes, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
All right, it's early yet. Where's our starters of music?
Sure.
Harry, you gotta stand up. Yes. Aaron. All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Happy birthday to you.
All right. And there you have baseball.
Thank you, sir.
Club anniversaries, Laura Jennings.
She's working in the kitchen.
She's working.
Oh.
Somebody want to go find her?
Yeah.
They have short.
Let me go get her.
Just so that we can say. While she's doing that, we'll talk a little bit about, we have a couple of guests with us today. Tim over here, right? Tim,
Yes.
glad to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And Cindy back there, raise your hand. Glad to have you with us today. As we reach almost the Ides of January. Exactly what kitchen was she in?
Running.
There's there. Club anniversary, yay!
Hi.
I should have been in there with you.
Not really. Jean's sick, so I gotta fill in.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So,
Thank you.
well, we will miss you,
Thank you.
you know,
I'm just other side of the door.
we'll be quiet.
I'm the ones that need to be quiet.
Actually, on the other side of the building.
I wish. They missed a party last night too.
You did?
Yeah.
Then we missed you.
Oh, thanks.
All
You
right.
guys have fun.
Okay, we will. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
All right, a poem today by Frank Sherman called January, which I just thought kind of fits. It's a good poem. January, bleak and drear, first arrival of the year. Named for Janus. Janus who, fable says, has faces too. Pray is that the reason why yours is such a fickle sky? First you smile, and to us bring dreams of the returning spring. Then, without a sound, you frown, and the snowflakes hurry down, making all the landscape white, just as if it blanched with fright. You obey no word or law. Now you freeze, then you thaw, teasing all the brooks that run with the hope of a constant sun, chaining all their feet at last, firm in icy fetters fast. Month of all months, most contrary, sweet and bitter, January. All right, very good. Get my coffee now.
You gotta have your coffee now.
Mr. President in waiting. So
I'm waiting, yeah. Member moment is Josh, who's not here, so we haven't seen Josh for a long time.
Yeah.
So, president announcements, we have a Rotary board meeting right after this, so if you want to join our Rotary board meeting, join it after this. Rotary moments, anyone have Rotary moments? Announcements. This will be a first and we don't have enough. Nobody has.
I think everybody's had so much lasagna that it's like we're all like.
Good. Okay, then Dan Birrenkott is our hosting our speaker today, which he is also our speaker, so I don't know. So here's Dan.
Well, this, Deb's also helping, and she's the one that makes me look good, I'll be honest, is that, because she does all the work behind the scenes with the PowerPoints and everything else, so, so really, what we're talking about today is Patrick Marsh. It's really the story behind the story. A lot of you have been hearing me talk for quite some time, and about the Marsh, and so one of the things that we're going through today, Deb and I will be talking over our placards that we came up with, which was quite a chore. We met probably for the last year and a half, at least once a month, to go over the wordings and come up with the game plan. So, Deb, should we start with that overview that we kind of?
Yeah, the beginning.
Yeah.
Just wanted to go over this really quick. We do have some new members here, so we're really going to get into the nuts and bolts of what we have for the plaques, but just to give a super high level overview, what we're working on is constructing an additional viewing and educational area for the community and visitors who come to enjoy the marsh, the wetlands, and the wildlife out there at Patrick Marsh. And we're creating information and educational plaques for visitors. And so that's really what we're going to spend our time talking about today, is those particular plaques. So the plaques themselves, if you've lived in Sun Prairie for any length of time, we have a really deep history. There's a lot of people who know the history of Sun Prairie. So the plaques themselves, to be readable, really can only be about 250 words or so. So what we're going to do is create these plaques, and then behind the plaques, we'll have more complete stories. So the plaque is meant to grab a reader's attention and to get them to want to learn more about that particular plaque. So hopefully that makes sense. There'll be a QR code, so they'll be able to go to the city's website, get that information. That information we can change out, update, do all kinds of stuff to the stuff that is behind, or not on the plaque, but behind it. So the project, the reason we started this is we've all worked at Patrick Marsh probably at some point or other, but Bill Wambach was a Rotarian who passed away, and he was very active out at the marsh. He was on a board of directors out there. He's also been very involved with the city. He was a city alder. He worked for the DOT. He was key in restoring, 151 was put in out there. He was key in restoring the wetland area because he was the head engineer for the DOT. So that's how he kind of inspired us. When he passed away, he was one of our very first members. We wanted a way to really to honor him and to do some additional projects out at Patrick Marsh. It'll benefit the community. It'll benefit the kids in the different school districts. So we really, that's how this all came about. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't know is out there at the marsh, there's a meander corner, or there's a surveying marker, but it's in the lake. So obviously it wasn't always a lake, otherwise it wouldn't be there, right? So it was farmed for a while. There was a lot of stuff that was going on, but now it's a lake. So they can't use that. The surveyors can't use that. So what we want to do is put a meander corner up where it could really be used again for not only educational purposes, but the surveyors could use it for when they're resurveying pieces of land and stuff. So that's kind of a 30,000 foot overview of what we're doing. All right.
So this is just an overview picture of basically where we're looking at putting the marsh. It shows the current wildlife viewing area, and our proposed is more somewhere in this location here is our new educational outlook is what we're calling our platform. This is a picture I'd like you to kind of keep in mind. So this is like as if you stood where it says path, you're overlooking the lake. And so this is kind of what it looks like. When it came down to details, we were kind of losing our arrow because of technicalities of building it. But it still will look, similar to this. So when you stood where the path was, this is what it'll kind of look like is that this is the existing lookout that's at the marsh right now. And so it'll look like this, except for down below we'll have placards. It'll be a 6-foot drop off of this, and you'll be able to actually look at we have 9 educational placards that'll be on the wall, plus there will be one right in the base right here, and that's actually the survey corner will be. So is how it will look. This is, we're going to use natural fieldstone from the site. There's a pile of fieldstone that's actually only about 50 feet from our location. And that's one of the things as Rotarians, we'll be going and grabbing some of these stones and bringing them for the mason. That is bronze placard on there. We tried to go that route, but it was just too pricey. So we'll be going more with a granite is what we're going to end up with. So this is our overview. If you visualize, they're numbered as the placards are, and it also tells the size of them. Placard number 5, if you visualize just like this platform, 5 is the one that sits out the farthest, is the biggest placard, and it's kind of the welcoming to the marsh, to our wall. But just real quick, so that's what we'll be going through. This is what all the placards are, which is basically what we're trying. Number 1 is from the beginning of time to the indigenous, to 3 is basically Wisconsin statehood, 4 wilderness, basically the settlers, welcome to the marsh is 5. The lawsuit that Mother Nature won, which is a great story, and rebirth of Patrick Marsh, the partners and who actually created and who's done a lot of the work out there, our donor wall, and then the monument where we stand on. So this is kind of the wall is what it'll look like. We're showing 10, but it'll really only be 9. And to visualize number 4 will be on the side of the step out. So this is, and number 5 is also Bill Wambach. One of his loves was reestablishing Wisconsin's point of beginning. And he's actually been here to the club and given a talk on that back in the day, where he reestablished it. And with the strange shape of that platform, it's actually a truncated cone that's 6 feet wide on the bottom, 5 feet wide on top. And that's what the shape of Wisconsin's original point of beginning. So we're replicating what Wisconsin's original point of beginning. And that's what part of the wall will be built about. And there'll be a background story. We have so much information. That's the biggest thing, that we can't tell all the stories. I say that for each of these placards that are there, we brought a suitcase of information to the table. And then you have to try to break it down. And that's the challenge. And so that's what we wanted to show you, how it got broke down, but that's not the whole story. You know, it's really, so that's what our goal was as we work through this, is to come up with a story.
All right, so this is plaque number 1. Now I know, you know, even though that's only 250 words, that's really hard to read from where you're sitting. So we don't expect you to read it all. But this first one is really vague. It's really broad, I guess is what I want to say, because back, you know, 25,000 years ago, the state of Wisconsin didn't exist, right? So we're really taking it back to regions, because that's where things started. It started with regions. So, you know, it talks about the massive glacier that formed in the Hudson Bay, which is now northeast Canada. That's kind of, you know, how far back information we have. And as it advanced southward, it reshaped the land and gradually turning Patrick Marsh from a frozen tundra into a vibrant wetland ecosystem. So that's kind of this recap up here. And then, you know, we wanted to ask some questions so people would kind of get thinking and want to learn more. Like, what happened as the glacier approached Wisconsin? And we've got a couple of bullet points there talking about it, but again, there'll be a bigger story that you can click on a QR code and go and read more about it. And then, you know, how did the environmental factors shape the lake? And, you know, you're going to hear more about that in some of the other plaques as well. And then how did climate fluctuation affect the marsh? Because it went from where it was dry and farmers they could grow crops on it, to it filling up with water, to it going dry again. So there's all this story behind it that talks about like how these different things really affected it. But this is just, again, to grab the reader's attention and want them to learn more, whether it's students coming out or visitors or just people from the community who want to learn more. And then the second one, we talk about the first humans arrived, you know, the indigenous experience in the region. And again, we talk about it as a region because when they came, there was no state of Wisconsin. It was a region. It didn't become a state until we all know 1948. So this goes back before that time. So again, we're talking about it in really broad terms because it was a region. So this one is like, you know, what do we know about the region's earliest inhabitants? What changes marked the shift in the native life? And what is the significance of the burial mounds? So we do have burial mounds out there at Patrick Marsh, and what is the significance of those burial mounds? And then this Clovis projectile, that is just like one of the artifacts that was, you know, kind of found out at the lake. Those were very common to be out there. So our resources are information from Groundswell, their information from Sandy Kittner, and a lot of other people who have done research and learned about the marsh and have written about the marsh. So those are all our sources. And again, we brought a lot of information to the table and tried to really pare it down so that you could learn something from a plaque, but if you really want the details, you're going to need to go deeper into the stories behind the plaques. All right. And then the third plaque.
Plaque number 3 is actually, we call it a land surveyor's perspective, I guess because I'm the surveyor. And so that's where it came from. But bottom line is it talks about how the Native Americans were here and how did this transform into actually an area that could be owned by an individual. So that's what our goal was, is it basically tells, you know, how the first Europeans came, you know, who was the ruling and what took in place. Basically, one of the things is in there, which Bill was a lover of, was the 1831 point of beginning. And that's what, that's the monument that is a replica of the wall. And then it became the surveying of the state. Nobody could own anything until we actually came in, surveyed it, and actually created what was called patents. Patents was the first parcel of land that you could actually apply for and homestead and get. And one of the things I thought of is like, what did it cost? And I know it, the reason that the United States subdivided the land was to raise money, you know, to help the federal government. Even though a 40-acre tract, I think in the days was being, or by acre, it was like 39 cents or something like that. It was sold, you know, for an acre of land. And then you still had to come and homestead it. And there were certain rules that they had to follow. But in 1834, the very first land office in the state of Wisconsin, which was in Mineral Point. So let's just put it this way. They didn't open the whole state up and say, you get to go and apply for it. They could only handle so much. So they basically took a map and said, okay, Mineral Point, you're the land office where people could go and actually apply for a claim. And that's where it is. After that, as we read through history, that there was many other land offices that were created in the state as it was all subdivided. So, and then in there, it's got where Madison became the capital. And of course, in 1848, Wisconsin becomes a state. So next, in order for homesteaders to come, they actually had to come and survey. So these were the surveyors that came in and surveyed around Patrick Marsh, created the parcels. And from that, in 1840, we've got the first homesteaders. And that's where the interesting story of the Patricks and the Brazies. Brazies were actually brother-in-laws, but they were both claiming the lake as being, so you'll hear Patrick Lake and you'll hear Brazie Lake. You'll see it on maps as being Brazie Lake. And there actually was a feud amongst the family over what lake it was. And if you ask Terry, there's a whole long list of names of what that lake was called. You know, so it's through time, that lake just kept changing in name.
Yeah, and local people called it different, like the old lake was one of the names, and there was just, so depending on whose information you read, it's referred to as Brazie Lake, Patrick Lake, Old Lake. There's, you know, because of just, word of mouth and what people in the region called it at that particular time.
Placard number 4 will be on the side of our bump out, you know, just so that, you know, this is the one that will go here versus the first two is over here. So placard number 5.
No, that's 4 still. There's.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of covered it. Transforming the landscaping and the legacy of the Patrick Marsh are the next two, the headings. All right. Welcome to Patrick Marsh. This is probably a key of what we felt. I guess this would be our mission statement, really, for the wall. It's a site for education, research, and community. Together, we nurture our responsibility to nature. You know, it's just like we felt that was the main thing that we want to project is that, and our subtitle is Patrick Marsh tells a fascinating story about humanity's relation with the land and its evolution over time. And so our key things that we're bringing up, why is Patrick Marsh important? And why do we want to sustain it? So that's our key things. One of the things on, with what we have, our graphics each of these will have a graphic, but our marble that we have ordered, we'll be working with them on our graphics, but this one here will definitely have an eagle on it. One of the things is, next thing we say down below, it says, inspired by Bill Wambach, fellow surveyor, or fellow Sun Prairie Rotarian and land surveyor, dedicated to the preservation of Patrick Marsh. Bill had several things when it came to eagles. One, he was with the young eagles. I don't know how many, I know it's well over 150 or some flights that he took young people up into the air, and that organization was called Young Eagles. So we felt it was very appropriate to have an eagle here. And as strange as it was, last summer, we had a presentation with the Surveyors Association, and that was more in the springtime. And the entire time we were there was a bald eagle fishing the lake, and it was constantly diving. And we said Bill was there with us. I mean, he really was. And so that's just, I feel it belongs. So. Plaque 6 is the lawsuit that Mother Nature won. That's one of my favorite stories of the marsh. That, like we said, the marsh came and went. It dried up. Well, when the original surveyors came through, they meandered the lake. So what that meant is the people that owned on the outside didn't own to the center of the lake when it dried up. Well, it dried up, and some Prairie resident named Sunuck, he lived on Columbus Street, went in and homesteaded the land. He actually put a cabin on the lake bed. He fenced it. He had cattle there. And he actually went to the Bureau of Land Management, and he asked for them to resurvey it and actually subdivide it so that he could buy it. Well, the neighbor saw he was out there, and he didn't like it, and his name was Boardman. And so he took Sunuck to court, to Dane County. Meanwhile, at Dane County Court, they ruled in favor of Boardman, but also at the same time, the federal government came in and surveyed it and actually allowed Sunuck to buy the land for $1.25 an acre. And but meanwhile, you had the court where the court says, no, Boardman owns the land. Sunuck has a deed for the land. So it went to the Supreme Court all the way. And the Supreme Court ruled that there was a couple of conditions. They really ruled in Sunuck's favor, but they said there's a couple of conditions that you have to address before it can become yours. Well, then the reason we say the lawsuit that Mother Nature won is, yes, Sunuck won the Supreme Court, but guess what? In 1878, it started raining and raining, and it filled the lake right back up to where it was. So Sunuck lost everything, and then he had a deed to the land, but then he quitclaimed it to some of the neighbors because he just threw his hands up and said, I'm done. And that's why, as we saw time went on, in the I think it was in the 70s that, I can't remember exactly when the pumps went in, but the rinks actually ended up draining it and planted corn on it for many a year. So that's why, that's one of my favorite stories of the marsh. So
And then we wanna, the next plaque is really about the rebirth of Patrick Marsh. And this is, you know, this is after 151 was put in. It talks about, you know, how the marsh became Wisconsin's first wetland mitigation bank. The DOT actually put together a video about this and interviewed, you know, our representatives from the DOT, some of the neighboring farmers. There was, and it's really kind of a cool video that we have. So we got a lot of information about that, from the project people themselves, which is really interesting. So we, again, just wanted to highlight that this is Wisconsin's first wetland mitigation bank. And then, you know, then the regenerative power of nature, you know, how the snow melts and, you know, everything that happens. So again, this one started with probably about 6 pages of documents, and we tried to get it down to 250 words, something that would capture the attention and the, of the reader and wanting to learn more. All of these probably have 4 to 5 to 6 pages worth of documents, and there's more. It's just what we started with. And then plaque 8, really, this one came to us in the last 12 to 18 months here. No, really, we should talk about the partnership that really drove the expansion of Patrick Marsh, you know, and the people involved. So the growth of the marsh showcases the power of a community, collaboration, the dedication of individuals, organizations, and local government, safeguard this vital natural area for generations to come. So, you know, it all started with the DOT and what they did out there in the early 90s. You know, then we have our very own Jeannie Birrenkott here, who, you know, she lives out there. It's her backyard is the marsh. I actually don't know exactly where she lives, but I do believe that the marsh is her backyard. But she wanted to preserve it. You know, she and Bill worked on a lot of projects out at Patrick Marsh together. Bill passed away, and she has documentation, and she actually is the one who went up to Kathleen Falk and the government and talked about, you know, hey, this is a great natural wonder and we should preserve it, and so on and so forth. And that was kind of the start of what we have out there. So we just, again, on a plaque, you can only put so much. So we talk about who was involved here, the DOT, you know, Jeannie and some other, you know, interested citizens, the Friends of the Dane County Parks Foundation, Groundswell. When we first started this, it was formerly known as the Natural Heritage Land Trust, Patrick Marsh Conservancy, the DNR, the town of Bristol, the city of Sun Prairie. You know, it was called the Madison Audubon Society, which is now the Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance. And we've got the Dane County Board of Supervisors who was involved, the Rotary Club. And then we also talk about Patrick Marsh Middle School and their Discovery Club, because they go out there and they do water samples for the DNR all the time. They have a club and they've got kids that go out there. My daughter did have the opportunity to go to Patrick Marsh, and she was part of that Discovery Club, and the kids really, really learn a lot. And the DNR says that what we've heard from the DNR is, you know, they have the most water samples from Patrick Marsh than they do any other place, because the kids go out there and they work that and they do that and they learn as they go. So we really thought we needed to talk about this as well, and how it's grown to what it is and who all's been involved in the projects. And then plaque 9 is the donor wall. So we've thought about what we could put on here. We think that on the plaque, we're going to list the platinum sponsors and the gold sponsors, and the silver and bronze sponsors will be accessible via the QR code that we're going to have, and will be listed individually within there. You're up.
Okay, so now we're to the platform. This is a picture of where our outlook is, and this is where the actual section corner is out into the lake. That's why it's becoming a meander corner. Meander corner is just an offset point on the actual government line, which then determines, and the great thing about our project, we could make it fit that location. So that's where we were able to incorporate this into an actual real world thing. So that's where the plaque, which we'll jump to the next. So this is what you'll be standing on. It's, you know, it's gonna basically say this. This will be a granite plaque that says, "Welcome to Patrick Marsh. You're standing on a land reference point known as a meander corner. This point is used by land surveyors to define how land is marked and transferred to owners, to landowners." So this is it, and that's what you'll be standing on. It's kind of a rotary wheel markup, you know, we kind of did our thing to it, you know. So it's really, here we are, we're Rotarians, and this educational landmark is a joint venture of Rotary of Sun Prairie, City of Sun Prairie, and Wisconsin Land Surveyors. And then the wording down below is actually, we have a donor for this plaque already, which it was $10,000 was given to us from the Surveyors Association in memory of their past executive director that actually passed away. And he was where his grandfather was a surveyor, his dad was a surveyor, he's a surveyor, his son's a surveyor, and actually his grandson actually works at my past office
Oh my gosh.
currently.
Oh, cool.
So, and his name is Frank Thousand. So that's what the surveyors were willing to donate $10,000 to us for that. So, okay, so that's what we'll be standing on. So
the funding of the project. So, as if you've been in Rotary for more than 5 years, you know, we've been working on this for the past 5 years, right? Collaborating with the city, working with Groundswell. This was a very complex, project, is a very complex project in the fact that originally the land out there was owned by the DNR. There's some federal government money and so on and so forth. And so one of the city's objectives was to get that area into the city so it could become a park. So, you know, former mayor Paul Esser was involved in the project from the beginning. Aaron's been involved from the beginning as well. And as we move through these different stages, and again, when you get that many parties involved, it just becomes a very, very complex project. So the total cost today, this was as of last spring when we did this, is about $132,000. That's an increase of $50,000 from when we started the project, just due to the time that has passed, materials costs, all of that goes up. To date, we have secured $76,000. So we continue to work on that, and the pricing continues to change, but we're doing the best that we can with what we have, and, you know, where we're at this particular time. We want to thank our donors. These are the ones that we have so far that are platinum and gold sponsors. They're all, you know, they're listed there. And then, because none of this is possible without the donors, right? You have to have the donors who are willing to contribute. We do still want to, you know, approach businesses in the area and stuff like that, but we have to have something concrete for them, right? We've kind of learned that over the last 5 years. It's been a stop and go. And so, you know, they want to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. The one within here that's really critical is this Rotary District grant from 6250. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And then these are our silver and our bronze sponsors that we have today. Again, we expect this list to grow as well as we continue to approach businesses and individuals to make contributions to the project. So our next steps, well, this is some of the original stuff, the approval of the land exchange by the Natural Resource Board. That was back in June of 2023. that was approved, worked with the federal government for approvals, that was done. Permits obtained from the city of Sun Prairie, we completed, the original permit, which is so we can do the silt fence, so we can, get that down, so we can get the project started. There's a review and approval by the Sun Prairie Plan Commission. That meeting is tonight. So at 7 o'clock, if any of you would like to join us, feel free. And then there's the review and approval by the Park and Rec. And we've been working close with Park and Rec for the last several years. But it does have to go back to them to look at. Both of these, the information we've got is they're in support of the project, and we expect them to go through. And then we need to continue fundraising. And this project does need to be completed by May 10th to ensure we're able to use the grants, the grant from the district. I've had to renew that grant 3 times. They told me no more. This is your last opportunity to have that money and to use it for this project because it's gone on for so long. So I'm going to let Dan speak to the construction timeline that we put in place here, so that we can have it completed by the 10th of May.
So this is kind of my best guess is, and I just kind of laid out really once we get the green light, this is what we're looking at is that week 1 is installing a tracking pad, silt fence, and excavate the wall and the bench area. 2 is to week 2, pour concrete footings, and the biggest thing right now, we've got to work with the city on protecting it from freezing and actually pouring the wall. Week 3 is what we're going to do is let the wall set up. We're going to come in and measure for the railing. We cannot proceed with the railing until the wall is actually in place because it's like a cabinet, or putting a countertop in. You cannot design it until they know exactly what's there. And that's what they're telling us with our, with our railing system. And then they have to build it, and we got to get it hauled in and installed. Next would be, I just threw in a weather contingency because we know what's going to happen. And 5 and 6, the masons are on site. The biggest thing is I'm getting weekly calls from the masons. Are we a go? Because if I don't get that wall in, I'm going to lose the masons and we're all in trouble. So bottom line, that's where I'm at. I keep promising, I says, no, we're going. So I'm doing the song and dance right now, trying to keep everything. So week 7, backfill grade, the concrete, for concrete patio, for the concrete patios. Week 9 is set the plaques. The plaques are kind of a wild card also. We have them ordered, but we don't know if they're in the country yet, and we've got to go and tell them by May 10th, we got to have them installed. Finish grading, remove our tracking pad, and hopefully by May 10th, we'll be able to get Deb so she can write her final report and we can please the district. And I don't blame the district. It's like they wanted this money to be used for, this is our 4th year, I think, that we've actually had money committed to this and the money hasn't been used. And so we really need to get this stuff.
And we have other clubs who would use it, if you're in Rotary, that's how we did other projects. And so they really anticipate that you're going to use it. So they asked for a guarantee that it would be done this year. So I did my best based on conversations with the city, and so hopefully we'll have this all in place.
Something that I'd like to just add is that, well, here it is right away. Deb's already got it. Is that Melissa, our fellow club member, Melissa Radcliffe, has been huge in this. Ben Gebhardt, and we're working diligently with Cindy back there, and that's why thank you, Cindy, for being here today and hearing what we're really about, because she's been she's had a lot thrown on her plate, and we feel for her. We know, this is a lot. We've lived it, but she's got to grasp it in the last month. So yeah. And the rest is, and also Sandy Kidner, as far as the information behind the scenes, has just been huge. I mean, the book that he actually, and it will be a book about Patrick Marsh, and that will be in behind the scenes. And my sister Joyce Hastings, for helping us with the wording on the placards, was huge. She was been at all the meetings and stuff. So, and besides all of us who lived and breathed it, but you know what, like Debbie and I feel that I've got Bill Wambach's arm around my shoulders, and he's the one that brought both of us into the club, and we feel that this is what he's asking us to do, and I got a kick out of, after Bill passed, Lorette came to me and says, Dan, we know that you were the person that's supposed to be doing this. And so that was a good feeling. So, okay.
And, the other part of this is that, some of our first meetings, again, it's really been a collaboration with the city. They really want to be able to promote this as a destination point. That was part of their original plan, was to be able to have the land come into the city, and it was annexed in this last fall, and then they can promote it as a destination point. So this is a learning opportunity for visitors to learn more about it, as well as our community and the schools to use it for educational purposes. So we can promote this to Columbus, to even some of those Madison schools, that this is a place where you can come and learn about how, nature and, civilization, how we all combine, and what it takes to work to make a site like Patrick Marsh work. So really looking forward to being able to complete the project. And that is a picture of the lake at, I don't know, is it a sunset or a
Sunrise. Sunrise.
Whatever it is, a point to speak, that's all. So
one of the things is over, because of the time it's taken, sometimes we felt that we've been rejected a lot of times, but also because it's been 5 years, we've really been able to polish it a lot, to take the time and to relearn it and to learn people. I mean, Sandy Kidner just came into our group 2 years ago, and and that was a suggestion from Tony at Groundswell, and I mean, that was a huge tool that we got.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a delight to work with.
Yeah. And this is something we can build on. So one of the things that Sandy's done a lot of, and Dan Presser's kind of been the voice, is putting some of this on audio, so that people could walk around, they could actually listen to it. They wouldn't necessarily have to read stories, but we could actually have an audio for people, just like you do when you go to like a museum or something. You get some audios as you go from section to section. So that's kind of like future vision, right? Things that we can do down the road to improve it, and to make it and we can make it whatever we want it to be, and add as much behind the scenes information as we want. And again, we really believe that this is a community project. It's not just, it's collaboration with the city and Groundswell, and it's a community project. And I think it's something that the community, the community will be very proud of when it's finished. So again, thank you, former Mayor Paul Esser, for helping us get started on it. Erin's still in the trenches, but thank you. Cindy's come on in the last, she's kind of been involved, but now she's our direct contact for Parks and Rec. So, again, can't do this without any of our partners. And, again, we're still, well, Erin, do you want to speak to like the land acknowledgement and all that stuff that the city's looking to do? I didn't include it in here.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'd like to, with it being a city park, we'd like to obviously name it as a city park. And so one of the things we'd like to be able to do is work with Ho-Chunk to come up with a name that's appropriate to the history of the land. And so we are working with Groundswell to try to do that accurately so that it is authentic and do that land dedication and naming. So we're hopeful that that'll work the way that we had intended of making that connection. And so, I mean, it's something that's working on to try to determine what is that authentic connection to the Ho-Chunk tribe so that when we do come up with that name and dedicate the park officially as a city park, that it does have that connection back to the history of the land and in recognition of we celebrate the diversity and want all of the residents to feel like they are included in what we're doing. So we do the best we can to try to achieve that. So that's what we're hopeful to do. Thank you.
Yep, and that's all we have. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
Teresa?
I have a question about the trail. So it looks like on one of your maps that there's going to be a new trail built. I'm curious how close that is to the trail that was established about 2 years ago, kind of the road trail. And who's gonna be working on building the new trail? When will that?
The trails are gonna, once we get the monument place, then Cindy will be working more on a trail network. So the trails are in progress right now.
Jim?
Are you planning some sort of dedication ceremony?
You know, Jim, I'm really, reluctant to put any time frames on it. Based on past experience. Yeah, we'll have some kind of rotary. We'll ask people to come out and help us with the projects. You know, so there'll be a lot of involvement, but yes, we definitely can do something like that when we get it finished, but I don't have a date for you yet, Jim.
Rich has his hand up.
Oh, Rich, you had a question? You're on mute if you're speaking.
Maybe he doesn't know.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I live pretty close there and in the fall especially, I like to take a walk through Marsh, and the viewing area that's there used to have signs on it or around it that says sponsored by Rotary Club. Those are no longer there. Do you know why, and can we get them back?
I see the city going, I'm not really sure. So, it looks like maybe just, maybe they were, taken by somebody. They just wanted a Rotary sign, so we can definitely work on getting them back, Rich. Thanks for letting us know. Right, Steve had a question.
What controls the level of the lake now?
It's actually just runoff. You know, there is you know, a certain point, like a pipe that it goes through, but that's really it. I mean, that's just surface runoff. It's a surface place.
Yeah, but where's the outflow?
It goes to the north.
Other side of 151, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
other side of 151.
Right.
Yes.
Does this project have its own 501c3 or?
Well, Rotary, we
Yeah.
do, our club,
Oh,
so
so you-
all the funds are running through the
Through
Rotary
Rotary?
Found, yeah,
Okay.
the Sun Prairie Rotary Foundation. So it is tax deductible for anybody who would like to donate. Thank you for prompting that. Great. Any other questions?
What is the actual total lake region? You know?
What was purchased by the city recently or annexed into the city is 225 acres. So, that's that area out there that was annexed in. And again, that was done this past fall in October.
That was at 39 cents an acre, right?
Yes, it actually was less, but it was free. Probably $1.
When you were studying the history of how one person tried to buy it and develop it, and I wonder if anybody has ever made a connection. I think it's down by Darlington. There's a couple of small communities down there that were built in a very low spot that they're gradually relocating to higher spots. If somebody could demonstrate how here we learned the lesson at the cost of one house. In other parts of Wisconsin, we built the whole city and they're all spots.
So, yeah, well, thank you all very much. Hopefully, even those of you who have been listening to us for the last 5 years, maybe you gleaned just something a little different about the project. And Dan and I are always here if you have any questions, so thank you for your time.
Thanks, Scott.
You're up, Dave. All right. Happy dollars. Let's go quick. I have an appointment. I got to get to, so I'll get back to you, okay? Because you get a free one. Otherwise, it's a buck. Anybody got, you give me all your money last night. I don't know. I got a lot of them last night. So. Happy dollars. Happy dollars. Happy. I see money.
Yeah, but I'm so good. You gotta come in.
You're still thinking? It's dangerous.
I know you got me
All
too
right.
early last night. I didn't come up with
Any
anything.
more? Happy dollars. Happy dollars.
You said go quick.
Somebody's gotta give me one. Okay.
Give you $1. So well, first I want to thank again the people who put the holiday get together last night together. It was really, really very nice. It was nice to have a space all to ourselves too. So thank you. And it was fun getting to chat with people that, have our tables here, which is great. She has talked to a small group of people, but it was nice to have a big space there where we could chat with more people. And Diana and Tony and I got together and we started talking about the Kentucky Derby part. So, and Rose was there as well for that conversation.
Oh, no,
And
Rose
then,
was not in that conversation.
What?
Rose was not in that conversation. When you were there. I was there, but yeah.
Whether you liked it or not, you were in it. The second one was, we do realize that, again, that this project just has been a long haul and, sometimes you're probably tired of us talking about it, but I really do appreciate the collaboration that we've had with Mayor Esser and the city, city of Park and Rec, and then Aaron over there representing the city. So, now we just gotta get it over the finish line, so.
And we will. Okay, anybody over here? I saw a dollar out here over here. There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not gonna give you change either.
I didn't ask for change. I've shared this before. When Henry passed away, he had worked with Groundswell. He had been on Patrick Marsh many times doing things. And so some of the money that we raised for him is also going to be going toward some other little things in the park, like some interpretive signs related to the wildlife or the plant life out there, some benches, that kind of stuff, all in concert with just allowing Sun Prairie and people to enjoy that area and its natural beauty.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. $200 went to the progress of Patrick Marsh, and one's an excuse dollar. I was late this morning, coming down the street, and the little girl was running down the sidewalk, and I decided to yield to her for a little bit.
Couple of dollars. One, Cindy, thank you for coming. My happy dollar is to get you here and actually trying to get you educated on what we're about. So thank you for being here. And I'm happy about warm weather, and even though it's turning cold, but I'm thinking positive once we start digging.
Rich, do you have one? Okay, very good. Cindy, you get a free one. Rule is you have to stand up.
Try.
And it doesn't have to be anything about your job or.
But just, what are you happy about?
Thank you for having me today. It was really great to see you all. And I've heard a lot about the Rotary Club, but I haven't really experienced a meeting or what you guys kind of do. So thank you.
Yeah, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. My daughter, Tegan Davis was, part of Isla in the last year, very involved in the club. So it's great to see what you're doing, the involvement in the community, and that's why I want to get involved as well. So thank you.
Yep, oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the birthday song. That's always good. And so good there. But one, I wanted to thank the team for all the work on Patrick Marsh, but I do want to specifically call out Debbie. Debbie is a star where it comes to Patrick Marsh, but also a lot of other things. I just had gotten off the Rotary Foundation board, and that board does not work without Debbie. She gives you all the history, manages all the money, leads the presidents down the right path. And so I just want our club to know how big a deal Debbie is, and just keeping the project moving. And there's been lots of setbacks. And so thank you, Debbie, for your leadership. Debbie is a big deal. There's no doubt about it. The other is for Cindy and her involvement. There's been a lot of change at the city. We've had to pivot along the way with referendums and org chart changes and all of that. There's been a lot of anxiety over all of that, and Cindy's really stepped up, especially for this project, which is not an easy project to jump into. And so thank you, Cindy, for doing that. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, very good. Before we go to the final president-elect here, just a notice. Oh, you got one finally?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna give you the money anyway.
Finally, she was thinking.
Yeah. You caught me too early last night. Debbie and Dan, thank you so much for, and we have heard you talk about this a lot, right? But this was really helpful for some of us longtime
Really good
Rotarians to put it all together. And I really appreciate that. Last night was a lot of fun. Thanks to our team for putting it together. And this weekend, we're taking our kids, adult children are really hard to buy for. You'll find that out soon. So we are taking them to a water park for a long weekend, and we rented a villa, so everybody's going to be together, and hopefully it's a good time.
Very good. Hopefully, yes. All right. Go hear the story. Yes. I think you all know that the government decided to not mint pennies any longer. But you probably don't know, they've also decided to not make yardsticks any longer.
Happy hour for the Patrick Marsh Committee. They do a lot of work. You saw it today, but behind the scenes, I help out a little bit. Every Friday morning, that committee gets together for a half hour, give or take a few minutes. So it's an amazing amount of work they're doing. So thanks to Dan and Debbie and everyone else, John and Jeannie, for being on that committee. That's a lot of work that they're putting together for that. So with that, we'll do our raffle. Aaron, you want to put it here? I do not, sir. Okay. Take this on. All right. We got 294. 294. Whoa, last year.
Oh, that's person. That little girl was the saving grace for you.
Okay, great meeting, everyone. Thank you.